Good morning. Need a shave again, but let's have a look at the patio. Well, this is what we done yesterday. I say we because Ian was with me. Got that edge in there, got the picture frame in. So that's done. We've wrapped it round here now. We've got to do that corner. We've got to adjust that eco drain, which I picked up another one yesterday, and we've got to come round here. But then we've got two small pieces over there to complete. So look, there they are. One there and one there, and then this bottom patio is complete apart from the grouting. So what we've got here is some porcelain, and this porcelain is going to be the contrasting picture frame we're going to have to this patio. And if you look now, I occasionally don't do the mitres. I like these owl shapes. It just looks as if there's been a little bit more work being put into the project when you're doing these owl shapes. It's very easy to do a 45, and it's simple, it's effective, it does work, but I just think this adds a little bit more value. Now, the only problem is that when you're cutting porcelain, you get the tension in the porcelain, which can be really problematic. And you're going to say, what is the tension? Well, the only way to actually describe it is when you're cutting a length of timber down the grain, and the timber sort of pulls in on the grain and tightens up on the saw. And that's what this actually does. It's incredible to think that there is tension, and the porcelain will bend or force, the forces are pulling in one direction. So for example, if I was to cut from this end now right the way through to this corner, from here to this corner here, what would happen? The tension and the forces will possibly make this porcelain break here. Now we want this piece, so the idea is that what we do, we cut from the corner out. Okay, if we cut from the corner out, what will happen is the strength is in this shoulder on this bit. So we cut from there to this point, and from that corner to this point here. But the first cuts that we need to do is along this part here, okay? So that when we do finally cut through, okay, when we finally cut through and get to that point, it's going to be a nice clean cut, and this is holding the whole length in place because we haven't cut through this. If we were to cut from this end going into here, as I said, it would break on that part here. So the proof is in the pudding, and I'm going to get on with it now. So what we're going to do now, as I said before, we're going to cut through on this cut here. I know which side of the line I have to cut, and when you're cutting porcelain, of course, that it's very unforgiving. We're talking millimeters that actually show up. Half a mil can actually show up, and it is, you can see to the eye that if it's not right and it doesn't look right, you just got to clean it up and start again. So let's cut through this now. So you would have noticed then that I went through on several passes, and the reason for this is that blade is getting towards the end of its life. Can I change the blade? Have I got a new blade? Yes, I have. But I need, these blades are not the cheapest of things to actually buy, but we need to maximize as much as we can and life out of these blades. So what we got here is, now I'm going to cut from the corner to the cut I've put on this side. Cutting from the shoulder, let me just show you here. From the shoulder, that's the strength. So we cut from that corner to this point here, and that hopefully it won't break at this point here. You also got to remember is that when you're using these saws on such a regular basis, is that you will have fragments of waste or porcelain underneath the saw, underneath the slab itself. So you've got to make sure that it's cleaned off and you square everything up as much as possible to ensure that you get a good cut. So what I've done is I've cut all the way through at this point here, roughly about this far as the blade, and I can see light through the other side there. Now I'm going to start from this side before I go all the way through. So I'm going to cut through here, the same sort of incision I've done there, I'm going to do on this side now. Make sure the blade is lined up with my pencil mark I have on there before we start cutting, and turn the water on because we're going to lose our pencil line otherwise. We've made our cut through here now, we've made our cut through there. Now what we've got to do, it seems as if it's a lot of work, but it will be worth it. We turn it over now, and we can just see on both sides where we've actually cut through there and there. Now with a grinder, a 4-inch grinder, we're going to cut through from this side, not the saw, because we don't want a deep cut, we want a smaller cut on this side. Well, just got to be really careful. The last thing you want to do is to chip it. But there we have our picture frame. And it's not bad. Now the only thing we need to do is to put it in position now. So we're gonna have a look now. Well, this is where we are this morning. We've got to clean out on that side and a little bit more on this side, and then we can start building our step. One of the things that we have to do is make sure that the first tile that we put in has a capillary groove underneath so the water can drip off. Well, with this patio here, we had patio on top of patio, and now we discovered that they built wall upon wall, which is okay, I suppose, and they've built steps upon existing steps. Concrete here is absolutely fine from the existing steps, nothing wrong with that, but we've got to make it up a little bit more to reach the top of this brick level here. But what we need to do is clean that off, and then we need to put some slurry on there to make sure that the new concrete adheres to that. Bit of a clean off first, get the mud off, leave that dissipate somewhere, and then you can slurry it. Not contaminated there. Well, we're using the bowel priming slurry this morning, and there we are. Look, that's on there now, and that's going to ensure that that concrete sticks in that, because otherwise what will happen is when the water goes to the bottom like it does, you'll get that freeze thaw effect, and then the steps will eventually work loose. So what we have here is what we call a fluting wheel. A fluting wheel helps to create a shape in a paving product, in this case porcelain, to allow the drip to come down and create a capillary groove, essentially, and that's what we hope to achieve now. So when we look at this slab here now, the slab is upside down for filming purposes. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to put that fluting wheel on a grinder, a 4-inch grinder, and we're going to run that across here, creating that U-shaped. If you look at that, you'll be able to see the shape of that. That's the shape that we're going to create in here. Now, the reason for that is that when we look at a tread, when it overhangs a step, and we look at a windowsill, which is a prime example, a windowsill, the water runs off, goes round underneath the sill, and then it drips down without going on the face of the brickwork. And you see all too often where we see steps where they're finished flush with the brickwork, or what we call the riser in the front. Now, we don't want that because we want the water to drip down and keeping clear of the riser. Now, we are going to have splashback, but what happens more than often when we're using porcelain products now and paving products is that the grouts themselves aren't stable enough to stop the leaching effect going down. You'll see it all too often on developments where you'll see leaching down the face of rendering, and it's just not good at all. It looks very unsightly. So the other thing what I was going to talk about was that you will not be seeing the underside of this porcelain product. Well, you're not going to physically get down and see that. You're going to see the face side, of course. Now, what a lot of people do, they put what we call a mold, okay, on the front, or a bull nose, and that's created with one of these. But the only problem when we use one of these on here, you'll see the inside. At the moment, we've got a nice clean face which replicates the face of the porcelain tile in itself. Now, if we were to put a bull nose all the way across here, you start to see the inside, the fillers on the inside of the porcelain, which isn't good itself. And what's not good now at the moment is that it's starting to rain, so we better get on with this. Anyway. Fluting wheel in, capillary groove rather, exterior adhesive on the back of the tile, and we've got some adhesive on here now, so I'm just going to let that sort of start to go off because this is a rapid set one. We've got it on the brickwork here as well, and we're trying to keep a tight bed. We are. Look at this. Yeah, again, absolutely fantastic. We've got a lovely hot roll with, I think it's chicken, or maybe, yeah, chicken, turkey maybe, with cranberry and stuffing, grapes and tomatoes, and an absolute perfect cup of tea on a Friday. Thank you. Well, at last we've broke through the wall now. Well, there was steps there, but we're making progress now, I feel. Majority of the patio is done. There's a couple of picture frame cuts that's got to go in, but we're heading up through the wall now, and we'll be on that path next week. Hopefully the path will be finished and we'll be onto the patio as well. So